Okay, good morning. So we're continuing on with the first part of the all-sufficiency of God by John Essex. Now, we want to learn a little bit more about Abraham or Abram today. And we find him very early in the scriptural narrative, between the 11th and 25th chapters of the first book, Genesis. We first meet him at the age of 75, and he dies at the age of 175. Thus, that part of his life, which is portrayed in Scripture, is exactly 100 years. And of that 100 years, the first 25 are undoubtedly the most momentous, as laying the foundation of all that followed. When we are first introduced to him, he is called Abram, and is living in the ancient city of in Chaldea, or Mesopotamia. About that time, was the most magnificent city in all of the world, a center of manufacture, farming, and shipping, in a land of immense fertility and wealth. But it was also a heathen city with many gods and goddesses, small g. The principal deity of was Sin, S-I-N, the moon god. Wow, that's interesting. Whose wife, Ningal, or Nina, was the one after whom the city of Nineveh was named. Thus we have the background of Abraham's early life and upbringing. A city of wealth and prosperity allied to that which always goes with worldly fortune, namely false worship. That Abraham himself was affected by it can scarcely be in doubt, for Joshua tells us that even Terah, the father of Abraham, served other gods. Joshua 24, verse 2. Even after Abraham had been called away from his relatives in the cast continued to worship idols. For in the time of his great nephew Laban, we find Rachel, Laban's daughter, causing trouble by stealing and hiding her father's gods, small g. Genesis 31, 30 through 35. It may come as a shock to realize that the direct line of descent from Adam, which had been kept flawless up to the time of Noah, Genesis 6:9, had now become contaminated by idolatry. Was there any righteous, God-fearing man in the world at this time? Might it not then have been true, as the psalmist wrote many years afterward? The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. And that's correlated in Romans, when there's no one good, not even one. The Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. They are all gone aside. They are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Psalm 14, 1 through 3. This passage was later quoted by Paul in his Roman epistle as his summing up of the general sinfulness of mankind and the consequent vanity and ineffectiveness of the human endeavor. Might it not have been particularly true in Abram's time? It had earlier been said of Noah that he was a just man, flawless in his generations, and that he walked with God. Alone of all humanity, he was the only one of whom that could be said at that time it was true, and none else, and of none else. For all but he and his family were destroyed because of their wickedness. But what had been said about Noah could not be said of Terah, Abram's father. And if it could not be said of him, where was there a man who was not touched by idolatry? The plain fact is that humanity, when not indwelt by the vivifying Spirit of God, soon becomes exceedingly sinful because of the domination of the flesh. The disposition of the flesh is enmity to God, says Paul, for it is not subject to the law of God, for neither is it able. Now those who are in the flesh are not able to please God. Romans 8, 7 and 8. He is aware that good is not making its home in him. That is in his flesh. Romans 7:18. Jeremiah tells us that the heart of that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Jeremiah 17:9. The tendency of humanity is naturally toward wickedness because we are dying, mortal beings. We sin and we miss the mark. For death reigns over all. After the race had been in existence for more than 2,000 years, according to the Septuagint version, and had plenty of opportunity to prove itself, God saw that the wickedness of men was so great, and the thoughts of their hearts so evil, that he decided to bring the eon to an end with a deluge that would destroy all except the family of Noah. Noah and his sons were preserved to continue the race, not because the race deserved a second chance, but because God's purpose still needed humanity as the vehicle in which his Son should come and give his life for the universe. Not far from humanity deserving a second chance. The deluge was God's judgment upon it. Here he plainly showed that all the efforts of men led only to vanity and destruction. Indeed, so wicked was humanity that the preaching of Noah could make no converts. In the midst of a world of iniquity, Noah was a heralder of righteousness.